You're listening to Conflict Radio on the Conflict Radio Network. Greetings, and welcome to Conflict Radio. Today, our guest is Robert Stanley. His website, UNICUSmagazine.com, is pretty impressive. I recommend you go over there and check it out. My cat, lately, is doing okay. She likes the frequency to help her kidneys, I guess. Those who have been listening to the show know what I'm talking about. If you don't, you should probably listen to an older episode, because I'm not going to keep rehashing the same old thing. But it definitely is interesting how this kidney frequency is keeping my cat alive. And she has to have it. It's her regular medicine now. If she listens to the frequency, she'll be fine for a couple days. And while she's fine for the couple days, she doesn't want anything to do with it. She won't listen to it. And then she'll start getting sick again, or her kidneys will stop working. And we'll put the frequency on for her, and she'll literally cuddle up with the speaker when she knows that she needs it. It's very interesting. She knows when she needs it, and that's when she'll use it. You can't give her the frequency without her being sick. Like, you know, once she has the frequency and she's fine, she doesn't want anything to do with it anymore until she's sick and not well again. It's very strange. Nothing like I've ever experienced. So we're going to be taking her down Monday and getting her blood work done again. So just to give everybody an update on that. We've been learning a lot on this show as we go from guest to guest. We definitely have been learning a lot about UFOs and consciousness and how the brain works and Q and what's going on in the world today. All of this wool and deception that's being pulled over our eyes. And Robert Stanley is the perfect person for us to talk to. He's going to wrap everything up nice in a bow and kind of give it to us like, here you go. This is pretty much all of what you've learned in a nutshell, and this is what it means. And I couldn't think of anybody else to have on at this time other than him to explain to us what's going on in the world. So let's give it a listen, and we'll be right back with Robert Stanley right after this. Welcome back to Conflict Radio. We're with Robert Stanley. His website, UNICUSmagazine.com, is a pretty awesome website. I suggest maybe going there and taking it out. And his podcast, the UNICUS Radio Hour, is available. You want to tell everybody where they can find that?
Sure, yeah. If you go to my website, unicusmagazine.com, there's a navigation bar at the top. You can just click radio. And I'm also doing a podcast with Jay Campbell. If you scroll down there, the homepage, you'll see that it's called the Divine Light Podcast. So I'm actually doing a couple shows right now, and plus I'm being interviewed by people like yourself. So I've been really kind of busy lately.
Well, I mean, you got a great voice for radio, and you really have some very interesting topics that you discuss. I would expect we're going to be hearing a lot more from you. Now, What's going on with the fallen angels? I do want to talk about the fallen angels, and I've been listening to a lot of your podcasts lately, and you talk about how we are the fallen angels. Can you kind of give us an idea of what's going on with the fallen angels?
Yeah, it's a kind of complicated, but it's important because it puts everything in the proper context, and okay, are we related to the fallen angels? Yeah. Are we them? Here's where it gets a little strange. Apparently, certain bloodlines are chosen or have been cultivated so that the souls of the fallen angels can incarnate and walk among us so that they can continue their conquest of this world. Now, some people say they seeded us here, and there may be some truth to that. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure this out. But for sure, we've never been alone, and we've never been left alone by both sides. There definitely are two sides to the equation. One appears to be reptilian in nature, multidimensional beings, and the other one is humanoid or more human. They're both humanoid, but So you have these two competing factions, and a lot of gray area in the middle. There's in fact, we seem to be a hybrid between the two. What we think of ourselves as modern humans is not something simply evolved from apes. We've been modified, and I guess specifically for purposes that we don't always understand.
So the reptilians, they're not. You think that they're fallen angels, or I'm trying to understand how this all comes into the whole religious and what we're reading about in the Bible, and how. I mean, did it say anywhere in the Bible about reptilians?
Yeah, actually, it does. I was talking to yesterday with Jay Campbell, and I interviewed Pierre Sabak, and he's written a few books about this. And angelology is a real discipline, a study, a legitimate study. Although it's open to interpretation as to the various forms of angels. We know there's quite a few, but the highest form, at least the way it's structured, the hierarchy by the Catholic Church, they say the seraphim is the most powerful, and that is the reptilians. And they are unusual in that they are typically very bright or radiant, and they also have the ability to either change their shape or hypnotize us into seeing something other than what they really are, which is very strange when you think about it, but not entirely impossible. But yeah, it's mentioned in the Bible. I think it was Moses' father. I forget his name. It's an Amram, something like that. And he talks about this particular angel having the appearance of a viper, which is a snake. So they're not entirely serpent-like, but they're reptilians or reptoids that have the reptilian features. Some of them have scaly skin. Some of them have like horns or appendages on their head. The thing is that both sides of the equation, unfortunately, are fighting with one another, and we're kind of caught in the middle of it. And they do not want us to know much of what's going on. I guess it's easier to keep us compliant.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that's part of it. I really don't know, but for sure they have pitted us against each other so that we're much more easier to control. That's real obvious, and you see that happening still. Thousands of years later, they're still doing that to us.
Yeah. So do you think the reptilians are like out there? They're the ones flying around in the UFO craft and such, or is there?
Well, yeah, actually, it's all of the above. You have all different kinds of species that are flying around in craft. In fact, that was one of the things that really got me going. Like I said, Jay Campbell introduced me to Pierre Sabak and his work, mostly etymology about understanding the origins of words, and how there seems to be there's some really amazing things just hidden in plain sight if you start looking for it in the various languages. Because we seem to think that all the peoples and the cultures and the languages are all separate, and that's not true. They're very much connected. They always have been. The planet's not that big. So for example, though, there's something. The thing that really triggered Pierre was he studying language. He found and religion. He said the word for angel, malach, is almost identical to the word for sailor. So malach can mean an angel and or a sailor, and which makes it. Why does that make any difference? Because they come in ships. Not boats on the water, but ships, spaceships. That's what we call them. The word UFO is like conspiracy theory. It's designed to kind of put up a mental block. It's like, oh, it has no identity, or we can't figure it out, so we'll just call it an unidentified thing. No, it actually has a very clear identity, and the occupants are well known. They've been here forever, and we are related to them. It doesn't mean that. Oh, the other thing that since you brought it up, it's not so clear cut as like, oh, all reptilians are bad and all humans looking, whatever, aliens or angels are good. It's not that way. there are people souls that cross over, okay, that just because of free will, they can choose, and they do choose which side they want to serve, be a service to self or service to others, or you could say the dark side of the force for those that have gone completely selfish and are greedy and corrupt and cruel. It happens. Even the good guys fall in, and sometimes it goes the other way. The bad guys can suddenly develop a conscience and say, I don't want to do this anymore. And actually, they become some of the biggest proponents for positivity and goodness and kindness and all that stuff. It's a mixed thing, and it's not very clear cut. So there's a huge gray area there.
So do you think that we know what we are? Like I know that, at least I think I know that I'm a human, right?
Uh-huh.
Do you think that the reptilians that look like human, or the aliens that look like human, do you think that there's some of them that think they're human and they're not?
They think they're human, but they're not.
Yeah.
That would be interesting. I never really considered that before. There's a lot of manipulation. I think you and I were talking about it off the air about the MK Ultra programs, these mind control, the Mockingbird stuff, Project Artichoke, Bluebird, all that crap. It's more about controlling a person's soul than their mind, and there's a lot of that's been going on here. And I'm pretty sure it wasn't just limited to this world, that the conflict is pretty far flung, at least throughout this region of space. And it seems to be relatively old. But then again, I'm not sure. I think in other dimensions, time as we know it doesn't even exist. So it's possible that this is all just being permitted to play itself out, and it's not that as big a deal as it may seem to us while we're here in this limited format. But ultimately, though, everything is being revealed, which I'm kind of getting tired of it. To tell you the truth, it's like I've been saying this since 2013 when I was first informed that was going to happen. And the purpose of it, and you probably heard me say this before, but for people who've never really heard me say this before, it's important. When I asked some of the contacts that I have, I would consider to be benevolent beings beyond this world, and I mentally asked them, how is this going to be resolved? Because I don't think we can do it on our own. And then I was almost immediately shown in my mind's eye, like I guess you call it telepathy. They were showing me that everybody was going to be forced to make a decision because everything was going to be revealed between 2013 towards the end of, and then 10-year window from 2013 to the end of 2022 would be 10 years. And part of the reason for it is this is not some esoteric thing. There's actually the whole planet, our entire solar system, in fact, is gone into it's always moving through space, right?
Yeah,
and there's a thing called space weather, right? Space weather. And it fluctuates all the time, just like the regular weather on the planet, but it's connected. It's all connected. So NASA calls this particular cloud of energy that we're in right now, they call it the fluff. I have never figured out why. I guess it's not important. Esoterically, people in the New Age or metaphysical movement, they would call it the photon belt or the photon zone. But it's all it is increasing, or it's amplifying our consciousness. That extra energy that now this is what's driving climate change throughout the entire solar system. All the planets, they all are experiencing climate change. So it can't be due to carbon emissions. It's because when I say a cloud of energy, one of the things that utterly confounds the scientists at NASA is how come everything isn't burning up? We've entered this giant cloud of what they call charged particles, but you could just say it's just energy. And from their perspective, they're thinking it should just be burning up everything in the solar system because there's so much energy in this cloud. I guess it's a small form of a nebula or something like that. But anyway, it was shown to me, and I wasn't the only one that saw us coming. And so as everything is being revealed, it's going to force everyone to make a choice. And although it seems very simple, do you want to choose the dark side of the force, or do you want to work with the light? That's really not it has a huge implication for us individually and collectively. And the thing is, a lot of people have, because we've been, there's so many layers of lies being told here that it's shocking as everything's being revealed, like the pedophilia and adrenochrome and all the corruption and stuff. So it's hard. It's a very, very difficult time. It's a transition, what we're going through, but ultimately we're being forced to make a choice. And the only way we can anybody can make a well-informed decision is they have to have all the information.
Yeah. So, now, there's a lot of fact actually that backs up that our consciousness was at a higher level.
Yeah.
Many, many years ago in ancient civilizations. Do you think we were going through a cloud then? Yeah,
it's a cyclic thing.
Yeah.
And they say like the ages in Hindu cosmology, they talk about the different ages or yuga, they call it. And so in fact, and the Mayas, that's what they were alluding to in their calendar as well. So end of the Mayan calendar was not the end of the world. It was the end of an age or it's the beginning of the end, I should say, of an age or a cycle. And so the beginning of the cycle is always the most difficult, like the transition point. It's very turbulent and dramatic. But that's what we're going through. And that's why you see the people who are very much negative and dark in their hearts have become increasingly so. Whereas those of us who are in the light have gone, it's amplified us. And so that we're actually increasing our service to others.
So what are we in for? What comes with consciousness evolution? What are we in for? What are we looking forward to experiencing?
Part of that is a very personal choice, not just good and evil, but because we have free will, we can, and we have imaginations for a reason. It's like that's where all our creativity comes from. So what we visualize, is what we will manifest. Some people say you create your own reality, but we're doing that together. So I think we're going to find that, and that's why a lot of people were attracted to social media initially, like, oh, we can just do all kinds of stuff together. And then it turned out, oh, that was a trap. It's more like anti-social media. And now they're censoring pretty much everybody about everything and spying on everybody and stuff. So we'll devise, manifest a much cleaner system for communicating and collaborating with one another, those of us who are service to others. And we will censor out all those who don't want to participate. Just like the dark side, they're trying to censor us, right? That's what they're doing to everybody that they don't agree with. Well, we are going to do that too, but not in a very cruel or corrupt manner. We're just do something else, and they're not invited. They just aren't going to be invited. And I personally don't think they would want to participate in something that's positive anyway.
Do you think that there's a true evil there that we're going to have to go up against?
Oh, it's always been there. That's, in fact, okay, the analogy that a lot of people use is that this is a classroom and that not everybody graduates at the same time. However, sometimes there are the group graduations and I think that's really what's coming up here, as a lot of us are going to graduate to a different level of reality. And it's a choice. But then again, you also have to qualify. You have to have done the work. And that's where some people will fail badly, is because they chose to be lazy or ignorant. And there's, again, it's a free will. If you want to do that, fine, but there's consequences for that. I mean, they say ignorance is bliss, but it's also a very, it's a bad choice. I mean, it's like, especially if you're on a battlefield, right? You can't afford to be ignorant, because that can put you into harm's way.
So as we go through this cloud and our consciousness evolves, now, Is it possible you think that the other side is going to maybe put stuff in the water, or
Oh, yeah.
I guess we're hearing about fluoride and whatnot. Like
Yeah.
they're gonna try to keep our consciousness suppressed.
Yeah, that's what 5G is all about. It's because they really don't want us. They're desperate to retain control over us, physically and spiritually. So that's why they're broadcasting 5G not only on the ground but from space down onto the planet. There's no reason to do that other than they're trying to interfere. I mean, the difference is, I don't know if you've seen that on my website at the homepage at unicusmagazine.com. If you scroll down, I've got these different categories, and one of the folders is the cosmic web of light, and that was shown to me back in the 1990s. I guess you could call it telepathy, but I was actually seeing it, so it's more like a little movie. It was a little more than a movie. I mean, because I was actually feeling it. Like, it's weird. It was almost holographic. And the thing is, I thought it was my imagination or something weird was going on, and then years later I found out, no, scientists actually know that this exists. So in other words, when you can see the graphics information on my webpage, but I'm just going to tell you for radio audience. When you look out at the stars at night in the sky, they're all connected through a web of light. That we cannot see that web of light with our normal eyes, but you can see it with your spiritual eyes, because it's moving at a different vibratory rate than we can possibly see. I mean, our eyes, I think, in fact, our whole body has been kind of detuned or dumbed down, modified, genetically modified, so that we're essentially we're good slaves. We're much more subservient in this format. But there's aspects of us that can be elevated, and that's part of what's going on here. So not only is everything, when I say everything's going to be revealed, I know that just sounds like a very mundane statement, like, oh yeah, okay. You don't understand. I didn't understand. They didn't show me that. They just made it clear, everything. So now, like, it isn't just the pedophilia and the adrenochrome and the corruption and the secret space program. And I mean, it's the fallen angels and stuff. It's like, it's everything, and it's really overwhelming. And a part of what I'm talking about is that people are, at some point, as the energy keeps ramping up, it's not that we're, what did you call it about our consciousness? It's being, some people call it ascension. It's
evolving.
It's not. It's not really, though. It's we have been dumbed down. So what's happening is, you could say, like, firewalls have been erected in our consciousness, and as the energies increase, they're amplified. Right, our consciousness is being amplified. So what's happening is it's bypassing the barriers, the firewalls that have been put up, and it's breaking those things down. The partitions are literally coming down, and so we're starting to see and feel and hear and know things that we simply wouldn't even imagine before. But I'm just kind of warning people, it's not your imagination when you start seeing things or hearing things or feeling things that you may have thought impossible in the past. It's real, because the universe is multidimensional. We are multidimensional, and the truth is, we're not just these little, some people call them, what do they call, meat suits or whatever.
Yeah.
We're just
made out of matter.
Okay, we're far more than that, and more importantly, when you look, especially, I would encourage people to go to my website, unicusmagazine.com, scroll down where it says the cosmic web of light. Look at that. You need to look at that, because, and that's why I made that, is for everybody to kind of get it's a graphic image, but it'll help if you hold that in your mind's eye, and then you find time to really, like, meditate or be calm or quiet and connect with it. Realize that you have that ability. Nobody can take that away from you. Once you connect to the web of light, it will change you forever. I don't mean just in this lifetime. I'm talking about your soul. Our souls are like seeds of light in a garden of light. And so when we're connected to that web of light, it not only gives us, sustains us, but it also is what informs us. In other words, it's like we know about the web of the World Wide Web. We're using it right now to communicate, right?
Yeah.
And other things, commerce and stuff. But the truth of the matter is that's a very small, corrupt version of what exists throughout all of creation. So, and I compare it to the web of light versus the web of lies. Now, obviously, not everything on the internet is a lie, but I mean, let's be real. Most of everything on it is corrupt or distorted or perverted. And yes, we can use it for good, but it was initially designed by the Pentagon, and it's for nefarious purposes. Obviously, it's not for the liberation of mankind, but it's a double-edged deal. So we're using it right now for good, but its initial design was for ill. But it's just pales in comparison to the actual cosmic web of light. So just like your computer can do a lot, but when you plug it into the internet and it's networked with millions or billions of other computers, now its capacity or its capabilities are just skyrocketed, right? The same is true for our souls. When we connect to the web of light, when we connect our soul consciously, make a choice to connect to the web of light, we have access to all that other information, all those other souls and their consciousness, you see? And then when we start working with them, well, it just increases our capabilities like exponentially.
Yeah, I've actually looking at this picture, and it's phenomenal. Yeah. I've seen it, I think, a couple times, even on your YouTube channel. I was looking at it. Yeah. And it's an incredible visual of the way all the galaxies are kind of all run together.
Yeah, and here's the other thing, though. I can't really show you that because, it's limited. Now, you understand that is a computer-generated graphic of what really is. Yeah. And when it was shown to me, in my mind's eye, it was like, oh my God, everything. Now, what they show in some of those, when you go into that folder, you'll see some of those things are kind of cool. And there's even like a YouTube video of scientists put it together at a very large scale. What they don't understand, or what they don't want us to see yet, is that everything, even down to the subatomic level, is connected by filaments or strands. Like it's a web of light. But it goes from the smallest all the way up to the largest. And just like you have on the planet, you have streams that go into rivers, that go into oceans. It's the same for this web of light. What looks like little filaments or strands in the web, it's all that is moving. All that light is moving constantly. So it's like streams of light or rivers of light moving through oceans of light, and it's always moving, and it's conducting or conveying consciousness and creativity. That's why when a barren, like we've had multiple mass extinctions on the planet, and the whole thing just comes back. Well, it's not like aliens are doing that or extraterrestrials. Although they can assist in the process, the planet will always rebound because it's part of this incredible fabric. The web of light is really, you could also say, the web of life. There's nothing would exist without that. So it's just another, like I said, everything's going to be revealed. That's a component that once we realize that's our divine birthright. That's who we really are. That's our neighborhood, or you should say that's our environment. It's not just, I live in California, or I live in the United States, or on this planet. No, I am a sovereign soul within the cosmic web of light. And even that is not the totality of creation. I should say, excuse me. One of the other things I've been studying is Walter Russell. And there's a folder there for that on my website. He says that the creator would be like an artist. He's an artist, all right? And his art is something separate. Yes, he created the art, but the art and the artist are two separate things. So he says God is like an ocean that the source it is still. It's magnetic. It's pure light, and there's no distortion. And it's like the ocean. The bulk of the ocean is calm and still. Yet the surface can be like considered the creation coming from its broadcast. Sorry, I'm not saying this very well. God is still. God's creation is constantly in motion. So if you look at the ocean as an analogy.
Are you there? Did I lose you? All right, we're going to take a little break, and we'll be right back after this. All right, we're back on Conflict Radio. We got Robert Stanley back. I guess we got disconnected or something. Where were you, Robert? You're talking about?
Yeah, so it's really simple, but it's something I've never heard anybody else talk about except for Walter Russell. He said that God is like the depth of the ocean. It's constant. It's still. It's constant. Without movement. God's creation is like the surface of the ocean, where you constantly see waves and motion. So one is still. God is still. God's creation is constantly in motion, and that's where we are. And that's why there's this web of light that's constantly circulating. The web is not static. That's what I was trying to be clear with you about. So it's kinetic. There's constant motion in that. It's hard. It would be really hard to portray this. I haven't seen it done yet, but think of all the light that you see as like water circulating. Yeah. It flows. Yeah, it flows. The light is literally flowing.
Well, you could see it. It kind of probably wouldn't be much different than how a highway looks at night. With the headlights. Yeah,
something like that. It's similar to that, but again, the thing is so this is the big choice that we have to make. Do we want to continue being part of the web of lies, or do we want to connect to the web of light? Personally, I choose the web of light, and that's why I've been helping other people to recognize that that's even available to them. And that's actually part of our divine birthright, which to me is absolutely mind-boggling. But as I said, it doesn't stop there. Once you go beyond that, then you end up in what Gnostics call the monad, the one, the source. And that's a very, very, very high level. And it's sacred and it's divine. And that's it's beautiful, I think, in a way. But ultimately, the creation is here for us to experience and to participate in, like co-create. It's like, we can create our own stuff here. And I know sometimes it seems very disturbing, but actually it's relatively safe. We are being supervised by various entities, so that we don't get too carried away. And
do you think
ultimately,
those are good entities then?
Yeah. But again, they're good in the sense that they respect our free will, but they also, like parents, they or any guardian. We talk about guardian angels a lot. The majority of people, especially in the United States, believe guardian angels are real. But what are they doing here? Right? Why would they be watching over us unless we needed some sort of assistance or supervision?
So you believe in a God then that created all of this, or? Yeah.
But here's the thing: God created all the angels, including the fallen ones, not to be evil, but ultimately they chose to go down that path and start fighting with each other. This is one of the things I was talking about yesterday with Jay and Pierre, was that among the fallen angels, just like you have organized crime, right?
Uh-huh.
They fight with each other, right? For they're always jockeying for positions of power. They kill each other. So they lack integrity, and morality and compassion. So they don't work well together. They don't play well with others. They're kind of stuck in that mode, and so therefore they're very limited. They're self-limited. Whereas those of us that are good and work with service to others, it's very easy for us to cooperate and collaborate with one another consciously. We do that, and it's fun and it feels good, and that's why we do it. And so we have a much less limited potential for what we can do It's, in other words, one is sustainable, the other one is not, for sure. Right? So I'm trying to say that they really are their own worst enemies, and you can kind of see that being amplified right now with, during this current political and cultural crisis that's raging. It is not just the United States. I was in Hong Kong. I left just before just went to hell with all the protests, and then next thing you know, conveniently there's a virus, and nobody's supposed to be out on the streets and stuff, and
well, it's bad for the Hong Kong protesters to be out in the street during the virus, but it's fine for for the protests here in the U.S. to be out on the street.
Well, I mean, they were doing it anyway in Hong Kong, and ultimately they were getting the tear gas or whatever those guys were spraying, and they were getting beaten and shot with rubber bullets and stuff. It was bad. I mean, I watched it. I still watch, but because I have my wife, my son, and I lived there for a little over 4 years, and we made some really wonderful friends there. So obviously I feel horrible for them. In fact, I'm still employed by a Hong Kong company, but it's like, I can't do anything about it. Oh, well, I shouldn't say that. Obviously I can emotional support for my friends. I think remotely I've been able to have some minor influence over the protest. But ultimately look what happened. The Chinese government just said recently, national security, it's not an act. What was it? National security.
It's over for Hong Kong, I think.
Yeah, no, that's what they did. They just said, look, we're going to implement this new law. National security law coming straight out of Beijing. It basically says your due process is over. You don't get that anymore under British. It was supposed to be like a 50-year transition. Mm-hmm. And they just slammed the door on it just like a few weeks ago when they implemented this new national security law. So they can just grab anybody anytime they want for any reason. And, it's like when I saw the secret police take over, they commandeered an entire hotel downtown, a place I was very familiar with. Even I didn't live in downtown, but I used to have to go there. And I was like, okay, that's it. They're game over because.
So as far as the Bible's concerned, the end game where this is all going, I mean, we can't have this good versus evil battle forever waged on the planet Earth. I mean, what's the end game?
Well, as I say, it's so that the souls that are here can make a choice, a clear and proper choice as to which direction they want to proceed. And I don't think it's not for an eternity. Those who choose to continue down the path of the dark side, I think some of them at some point are going to wake up and say, oh my God, that was a huge mistake. Please, somebody help me. I'm sorry. I am truly sorry. I repent. And it's like, it's okay to ask for help, but you got to understand that doesn't mean that they're going to just fix everything for you, do everything for you. And it's weird. It's like, I don't know why humans have come to this point where they seem to think that somebody has to save them, that they're not responsible for their own behavior.
This is I think this is a byproduct of giving every kid a trophy.
But that was done deliberately. I'm just saying this is how the dark side corrupts our consciousness and our morality and our internal compass. And it's like I said, it's more about soul control. They really know how to corrupt us. And so the victim mentality is real, and it's really dangerous. It's very debilitating because it's a position of weakness. Versus those of us who see ourselves as survivors. Victims versus survivors. There's a huge difference. Victims blame everyone, and they take zero responsibility. Survivors blame no one. They just, accept what has happened and become stronger from their experience, and ultimately usually, I should say, most of us will reach out to help others that are suffering. And in so doing, we make ourselves stronger and others. And that's called reciprocity. It's also part of a process that I think you've probably heard me talk about it, but I'll mention it again for people. The big difference, the most clear and simplistic distinction I can make is that everything on the dark side is dissonance, meaning it's discord. There's no harmony. And I kind of alluded to it before, but I'm talking energetically now. Mm-hmm. Dissonance is unsustainable, whereas resonance is sustainable. It's all about living in harmony, working together, all those good emotions of love and happiness and health and family and all that. Those are all resonant energies, and that's what the web of light is. So in order to, and this is why I've also said to people, if you want to connect to the web of light, it isn't just a matter of sitting there and meditating. It's about increasing your resonance. Some people call it a love quotient as opposed to an intelligence quotient or an IQ. The LQ is important. It's more important in many ways, I think. I know the word love means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, but the truth of the matter is we can increase our resonance many different ways. But I mean, the most simple formula that I was given is to do these things. And I know you've heard me say it, but I'm going to say it again. Being calm when other people are acting crazy, like you can see right now in the streets of Portland or whatever. Being kind when others are being cruel. Being creative when others are being destructive. And most importantly, being courageous when others are scared. Now, if you can only do one of those, it's better than none. But if you can do all four of those things, you will have increased your resonance exponentially. And here's the amazing thing. The longer you do it, the easier it gets, the stronger you become. And the stronger you are, the more of an example you become to others. So it's not like you have to force people into what they call, well, a lot of people say, oh, I resonate with what you're saying. Well, that means that we're connected. We're resonating together on the same level of frequency or consciousness or emotion. And so it's contagious. Just like you see the riots, the hysteria. The dissonance is also contagious, but it's highly corrosive, totally destructive, and it always collapses on itself. Guaranteed, every freaking time. So again, it's a choice. It's an incredibly stark choice too. But I mean, what I've described to you is pretty straightforward, right? It's not that complicated.
Yeah. Where do you think that where do you think the United States is headed in all this?
Well, it's not monolithic. I mean, there's going to be, this thing with these socialists / communists, fascists, whatever. This is not new. It's happened before. When I was younger, back in the late 60s, early 70s, we had these same groups. Black Lives Matter, back then it was called Black Liberation Movement, Black Panther. And the Antifa, the correlation there would be, they were called the Weather Underground, mm-hmm. or the Weathermen. And in fact, a lot of those guys are still around. The Weathermen helped Obama get elected, and then he ended up putting some of them in his administration. So they're here, and they're not going to give up easily. Neither side is just going to walk away from this. But I do think, though, that ultimately there's going to be, from biblical terms, they say that the wheat from the chaff, or the wheat from the tares, is more accurately what it says in the Bible. And all that means is the good seed is going to be separated from the bad seed during a period of a harvest. So I do believe that that's a real process, and that we're all going to look. It's not like you can just sit there and watch it like it's a soap opera. We're all in the middle of this thing, and there's no way you can just sit around and be neutral, because it's affecting everybody.
And you're gone again. Welcome back to Conflict Radio. We're with Robert Stanley. We keep losing him. We got you back now. We got you on the cell phone now.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. You're actually coming in pretty good for a cell phone call. So where were we?
I think I was talking about the choice we have to make, and ultimately that there'll be a separation, because it's just not sustainable to have both sides living next to each other. Both sides meaning those who are obviously in the dark versus those of us who are working for the light. We can't keep going down this path together, because every time we build something, they're going to want to tear it down. So, and besides, there's a lot more that we need to experience that we cannot move forward in our growth as long as we're surrounded by or being interfered with by these fallen entities.
So, I guess we're got about 15 or 20 minutes left or so, and I do want to talk to you a little bit about this secret space stuff that's going on.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think's going on up there?
A lot, and they're not telling us much. Unfortunately, that's always such a vague term. I can tell you this much: the deep state is run by the globalists or the secret societies, and they all work for the fallen angels. So it's like this: fallen angels, then you have the hybrids in between called the Nephilim or Gregorium, and then you've got the human collaborators at the lowest rung, and they're all working together. They don't always get along with one another, and there's obviously a lot of problems. But what they've done is created an alliance. Some people call it a breakaway civilization, although I don't think of it like that. It's just a very corrupt cabal. It's a crime syndicate. And so they offered these guys on the lower level, humans, some of us were given opportunities to have access to technology that we consider to be phenomenal. But it's actually mundane. It's commonplace throughout the cosmos. And, of course, they try to weaponize it and use it to control everybody and everything secretly. And the thing is, they stole trillions of dollars in the process to build this stuff. And so they have their agenda. I don't really study it very closely, although there is, again, I know I keep saying this, but if you go to my website, unicusmagazine.com, scroll down to the very bottom there's one folder called the Space Force Files. And, the Tic Tac UFOs that the Navy has been talking about, that's our stuff. But it's only for the elite. And it's controlled by military intelligence on behalf of the deep state and or these globalists, Illuminati, and the fallen angels. So think about, so when I talk about fallen angels, people I think immediately they think, oh, you mean guys with wings and all this stuff. No, they're actually, like I was saying before, they're actually, they come in ships. So they're celestial sailors. The cosmic sea. They navigate cosmic oceans, and some of them are pirates. Straight out. I mean, there's no other way to say it. They're just evil. So and corrupt, and they're somewhat coordinated. Okay, they do, like I said, organized crime. Sometimes it's disorganized crime, but nonetheless, what they've done here on this planet isn't that really. It's not that hard to figure out. And you can see, if you go to that file that I'm talking about on my website, you can see for yourself. I've actually got some video footage as well as blueprints and stuff. And it's really very obvious. You just have to take the time to look and think about how this was done and why it was done.
So what do you think about the logo? I'm actually scrolling your page here. The Starfleet Command logo and the United States Space Force logo, the logos are identical.
Yeah. Well, because this is the thing about Hollywood, has always been an extension of the Pentagon. It's propaganda. In fact, during wartime, you used to be able to go in, you go to see a movie, they would have intermissions where they would do these propaganda reels from the Pentagon. That's just a small thing. They've always had their hands in production of they call it social engineering or predictive programming, and it's a way of conditioning us to certain things like clones. You see, that was all foreshadowed. Just everything about the future is it's presented to us as fiction or entertainment, but what it really is entrainment. Meaning, it's mind control. The flicker rate, the way, how it's over time what they've done. Like, when you cut from one scene to the next, they've shortened the time so that, like, there's just cut one thing after the next, and the faster they go, the deeper it goes to our so-called subconscious mind. So they've been programming us. So that's why TV programs, the programs on TV, that's programming us to some extent.
Did you see that movie Out of the Shadows?
I don't think so.
It's exactly about what you're talking about here, the Project Mockingbird and all of this. So it's definitely worth taking a look at. It's all goes back to how the CIA was working with Walt Disney to,
right?
The whole thing. The whole thing is a CIA. Is a CIA operation.
But what is the CIA? Who are they?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, it goes back to this. The OSS, during World War II, Offices of Strategic Services, was merged with the SS from Germany. And that's when those two agencies came together and created the CIA. So you literally have Nazis that were brought in at the end of World War II under National Security Act, secretly under Project Paperclip, and they became part of our so-called national security, or deep state. They used to call it the shadow government, which I think is a more appropriate term because they're dealing with shadow beings behind the scenes. In other words, they're not atheists and they're not Christian. Some of them may say they are, but they're clearly not. They're typically, they worship, or they work. The word just literally means you work for. Worship means to work for. So they work for these various entities that are criminal, in my opinion, because the level of cruelty and corruption. That's just how the word evil is really it's just too vague.
Do you think that there's battles going on up there?
Absolutely. Oh, for sure there is. That's why you think stuff falls out of the sky. It's not like we could, especially back in the 40s, we couldn't be shooting that stuff down. And it wasn't just Roswell. There was a bunch of them. And they were all over the world, too. So, yes, absolutely. And that is just a continuation of what I told you before about the wars in heaven between these so-called angels that we now call aliens.
So how long do you think before all this starts coming out?
Well, it's been coming out for a long time. It's just that, like I said, when the Pentagon gave, New York Times, the green light to go ahead and put out this stuff about the so-called Tic Tac UFOs and Tom DeLonge and all the so-called government agency, all these people, mostly CIA, that he claimed were working for his team and all this crap. It's more smoke and mirrors. It's like so. I don't see. I guess to answer your question, I don't expect to get any kind of honest or full disclosure from any official government or religious agencies, even though they know. I know at some level that they know exactly what's going on. They just don't want to tell us.
Yeah, but I mean, it
can't be. It really would. Excuse me. It would really it would totally upset society because our culture is based on multiple layers of lies. And I mean, and you can't really blame any individual or any or institution per se, because it's the corruption that comes from the top down. The fallen angels, it all goes back to that they are a organized crime syndicate, and that they do have secrets. A lot of those secrets have ultimately come out, but officially, the status quo is fundamentally a lie, multiple lies, and that's going to be the hardest part. As things start to literally fall apart, the house of cards comes down, and people start to, whether they like it or not, and they start to be seeing exactly what's really going on, what's been happening. It's going to be a shock to the system, to say the least. And some people are not going to handle it well, and they may even die of a heart attack because it's just so shocking to them.
Yeah, but so what I'm saying is how long do you think until that hammer drops?
I don't think it'll be overnight. Since I know what you're saying now. It's a gradual process, mainly because the good guys don't want to harm us. They're trying to give us as much time as possible, but yeah, there is a date certain when, like the way it was shown to me is, by the end of 2022, everything will have been revealed. Not overnight. It's like I said, it's a 10-year period, but it's going to be increasingly difficult for people to ignore it as we move forward towards the end of 2022. And here's the thing. There's no going back. Once everything's been revealed, there's no way you can put the genie back in the bottle. It's like you can't unsee something like that. You can't stop knowing something like that unless they just did like a mind wipe, somehow create like mass amnesia on everybody.
Well, I mean, they've done it once. I mean, it's happened before. I mean, we knew about all this before on Earth, don't you think? Like, and there's been catastrophes or mass wipeouts or whatnot that make the people forget.
Yeah, and also deliberately burning books or hiding artifacts or records. Yeah, sure, they could try that. I don't think that's going to happen this time, though. I really don't. At least for those of us that wake up and choose to work with the light, that's it. I think on a soul level, even if they killed us, they're physically, our souls are already going to be so connected to the web of light, because that's where everything is anyway. That's what some people call it, Akashic records or something. But like I said, I'm just saying exactly what science calls it. The cosmic web of light is real, and you could access anything there. In other words, there's no secrets. I know down here people kind of think that that's a thing. It's like a currency. If the more secrets you can have, especially when you keep it from other people, like you supposedly gain advantage over them. That's just stupid. That's really stupid, because we're all connected anyway, and more importantly, we're all family. Everything is coming from the same source. We're all family. That's another one of the big lies that's been told here, and a lot of people believe it. Somehow we're separate because of our religion or our race, even though we're all one human race. There's all these different reasons and ways that they can justify dividing us up and keeping us conquered. But the truth is, we're all family.
Yeah, and that's the entire planet, not just certain religions
it's the whole, all of creation.
Yeah,
that's what I was trying to say before. We're not just citizens of Earth. We're citizens of the cosmos. We're children of light. We're seeds of light within this incredible creation. Incredible. And it's sustainable, and it's unlimited in its capacity to grow or create. So there's no lack of anything. No one should be starving. No one should be sick. No one should be suffering. None of that stuff. It's just here in this particular very small classroom. We're being challenged with these different, what do you call those? Not obstacles. They're obstacles, but when you go into a classroom, they give you problems, questions, a test. We're being tested. right? You got to, and the only way you can pass the test is like to solve the problems.
Yeah,
So
boy, I'll tell
the
you,
thing is,
it's
go ahead.
definitely interesting where we're all going. I mean, these are definitely interesting times, man.
Yeah.
And you know, either way you look at it, I mean, I think definitely everybody's starting to wake up to the fact that there's something's definitely going on, and
Yeah.
there's definitely going to be a lot of stuff coming out that, like you said, is going to just shock, you know, the majority of people. I think, you know, especially people that have, you know, I mean, the longer, you know, older people, you know, that have been programmed, you know, their whole lives, you know.
Multiple lifetimes, and that's why, like I said, it's going to be difficult, not impossible, difficult, you know. But graduation's always like that, you know. You have your final exams, right? You better cram for your final exam. So I mean, it's not funny, but it's just like, it's so obvious to me now. But I've been working on this since, for myself, not just myself, although it started as a very personal process back in 1985. I gradually realized that this isn't about me. We're all in this together, and so that's why I started reaching out to other people, ultimately reporting it. And I found out that the more I shared the information that I was getting, the more information was provided to me. So anybody can do that, become a conduit, and like what you're doing. And it makes a difference. It really, we can, in other words, we should be assisting each other. It's like, you know, when you're in classrooms, you could cheat and ask somebody for the answers, but it's better to do like study groups or hire a tutor or something. Mm-hmm. And you know, other people can assist you to do a good on the test, but you can't expect them to do the test for you, because that's cheating. And ultimately it means you haven't learned anything. And you won't graduate either. I mean, not really, because in the bigger scheme of things, even though down here, you know, people think they're getting away with cheating and stuff, throughout the cosmos, beyond this world and stuff, in reality, that doesn't work. It's a meritocracy. In other words, it's based on merit, and everybody has a permanent record of everything they've ever done. So all the choices that you make and the actions you take, all that is recorded, and that's your record. That's your merit. And you can't cheat that. You can't cheat that. So
what's the end game? The heaven, the hell, what's in it? What's in it for our souls then? You know, you spoke of, you know, we live multiple lives and stuff, but we're obviously trying to grow. We're trying to do better. What is, you know, do you believe in a heaven? Do you believe in a hell? Or do you think that the bad souls are just going to be snuffed out and just evaporated, gone?
I hope not.
You know,
I believe in divine mercy, okay? And because I've experienced that. So I think it's possible, but who knows? You know, there's a lot of things that are still hidden from us at this point, probably for a good reason. But eventually we're going to find out if we keep evolving, as you were talking about before, not just our consciousness, but our souls. You know, there appears to be very distinct levels of existence, not just on the physical, but within the non-physical or multidimensional realms. So our souls, they can grow, and the places, this is why I'm talking about merit. You could say, oh, I want to go to heaven. Yeah, well, if you're not qualified, if you haven't actually earned the right to go there and to live there, you're not going. And that's all based on your behavior and the actions that you take, the choices that you make. That's what determines where we go. It's not God judging us. It's us literally making choices that are either good or bad, and that determines where we end up. And it's not permanent. Like I said, we can change that. We can change that at any time based on, you know, our free will. But it's a gradual thing. You know, you can't just be in hell and one day go, I get it now, and boom, you're in heaven. It would be a gradual thing, sort of like ascending. Like if you do a deep dive in the ocean, you can't just go from the depths of the ocean to the surface, let's just snap of your fingers. It takes time. It takes time and effort. So that's just my personal opinion on it. But yeah, it's talked about that the lower astral realm is sometimes referred to as the underworld or hell. And it is very close to this planet. And there are portals that allow some of these entities to come in here and interact with us. But that's just the lower end. The majority of creation is much higher frequency in light and love and service to others. And again, that's so they say like birds of a feather. Those of us that are seeking that and actively living that kind of a life here now will ultimately, that's where we're going to move into those higher realms and beyond. So it's pretty darn amazing, and I don't think it's that complicated. At least I'm not like struggling with it anymore. Although sometimes I have a hard time explaining it. It seems pretty simple, straightforward.
Yeah. All right. Well, you want to tell everybody where to find you?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the main. I sound like a broken record. UNICUSmagazine.com. It's spelled UNICUS magazine.com. And I put most everything I do up there. And you can also email me there through the website. And I do my best to answer all my email. It's sometimes a little overwhelming, but I do appreciate hearing from people. And, any questions or comments you want to make, that's fine. So, thank you for having me on the show, and keep up the good work.
Yeah, and I definitely recommend everybody listen to your podcast. It really is fantastic. The UNICUS Radio Hour. I highly recommend it. It's great. Well, Robert, thank you very much for coming on. We'll be right back with Conflict Radio right after this. And we're back on Conflict Radio. We're just going to go ahead and wrap up our show today. Make sure to check out our website, www.conflictradio.net. You can find us on Spreaker, Apple iTunes, iHeartRadio, and YouTube as the Conflict Radio Network. Make sure you go there and subscribe, send us emails. We actually have a call of a listener is going to be coming on to the show. I think it's next week. He has a good story to tell. He sent me an email and kind of told me about himself and a story in an email. And I thought it was really interesting, so I sent him an email back, and we're going to go ahead and get him on the show. Basically, what I'm saying is that if you have something you want to talk about, you have a story that you want to tell, definitely send me an email. It's info@conflictradio.net. That's my email address. It goes right to me. It goes right to my phone. info@conflictradio.net. Tell me what you want to talk about, and I'll shoot you an email. We'll set up a time, and we'll get you on the show to talk about it, because some of you guys have some really interesting stories that I'd like to hear. And I think everybody else would kind of like to hear too, because that's what we're about. We want to learn. The show's about learning, and we're growing, and we are evolving. Apparently, as a society, as a human race, I think we have a lot of waking up to do. I think a hammer's going to drop pretty soon, and the world's in for an entirely different ride than what we've been on. I think it's going to be quite a shock to a lot of people from what Robert said. I completely agree with him. I really agree with him. I think that we're really going to be woken up to a lot of strange and interesting things in the next couple years. So definitely stay informed. That's it for us. Until next time, batten down the hatches and be safe.